Hi everyone, my name's Bronwyn. I work in the Tasmanian Future Students team at the University of Tasmania, and we're here tonight with a number of our teaching and education academics to talk to you about our teaching and education courses that you can study with us. One thing I will mention really quickly, we had a little bit of confusion from some people registering for tonight around the difference between a domestic and international student. So if you are an international student, meaning somebody who would require a student visa to come and study in Australia, there's a separate webinar going on tomorrow night, and I'll make sure that everyone gets a link to that. But I just wanted to give that warning up front. Before we jump into the webinar content, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land wherever you all are right now, spread across Australia. For us in Tasmania, that's the Palawa people of La Truita, who are the traditional owners of the land upon which we live and work. What we're going to be covering today in this webinar, first off is why you would study with the University of Tasmania. Another important question, why become a teacher? You're obviously all interested in becoming a teacher or an educator, and that's why you're here, but we want to expand on some of those reasons. Then we're going to take a look at the course options that we have in place. And we're going to talk a bit about placement because we know that a lot of people have lots of burning questions about placements and how they work. And then we'll jump into kind of the nuts and bolts around how to apply. And then we will allow some time for question and answer at the end. Speaking of those questions and answers, what I would really encourage everyone to do, if you've got something that you would like to ask about, don't wait till the end because we don't want to run out of time to get to everyone's questions. We want to make sure everything gets answered. You can jump down. Mine is in the bottom of my screen. I think it will be for a lot of other people, but the bar that comes up in Zoom, there is a button that says Q&A. Please put as many questions as you would like in there. And then we've got Tara on the call who is answering questions, and we'll have some time at the end to recap on what's been asked and those answers to them as well. Before we start talking specifically about teaching and education, I wanted to run through just a couple of reasons why the University of Tasmania is a great place to choose to study. The first reason is that we've got above average student satisfaction. So we have 82% satisfaction with teaching quality and engagement compared to 80% nationally. And we also have really strong graduate outcomes. So we know that 82%, we have an 82% full-time employment rate for undergraduate and 96% full-time employment rate for postgraduate students. And that's just in the first 4 months following graduation. So both of those stats there come from a national survey that's done across all universities in Australia. Another fantastic reason to study with us is because of the support that we offer students. So whether you need some academic help, some career guidance, or even just somebody to talk to, help with anything going on in your personal life, all of those things that may affect your studies, you can reach out and there'll be someone here to help you. And the last point is that we are #1 in the world for climate action. That's something that you've probably seen on our website and in our emails. What that means, that comes from a place called the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, and that's about everything we do as a university. It's about the buildings we teach in, it's about the courses we teach, it's about the research we do, and we're rated the best in the world, which is something that we're incredibly proud of as an institution. Before I hand over to the real experts in this area, I just wanted to share a student story with you. So this is Clint, who did a Master of Teaching with us, and he said this great quote to some of our team and speaking to them. He said that he chose secondary teaching because he knows how important it is to develop a relationship with students during those pivotal years and how teachers can help and support you well beyond high school. And it's just a sentiment that I wanted to share because of how impactful teachers can be and teachers and educators can be in people's lives. And hopefully that's a path that you're all headed down. So I mentioned we have a number of experts on the webinar tonight. So we've got Marianne Hunter, who is the Joint Program Director for the Master of Teaching, Robin McCarthy, who's the Program Director for the Bachelor of Education Primary and the Associate Degree in Education Support. And we also have Vaughan Cruikshank, who's the Program Director for the Bachelor of Education Health and Physical Education. So a real mouthful there, but they will be alternating talking about the different teaching and education degrees that we offer. So I will let Marianne take over now for the next one, which is really why you're all here, why become a teacher or educator.
Hi, everyone. If you're anything like me, one of the most influential people in your lives is probably one of those people that you met as a student, and they would be a teacher either in your primary or secondary schooling who's made a really positive impact on your life. And we like to talk about teaching as a relational act. It's a really, really important relationship that you have with a learner and with a school community. And those schools are at the heart of communities, and we really support that approach as we work with you as you become, as you have experiences in schools as a what we call a pre-service educator. And our degree actually allows you to teach anywhere in Australia. So even though we're based here in Tasmania, we do teach towards the Australian professional standards for teachers, and that will enable you registration in every state or territory in Australia and also allow you to teach overseas. The job stability and security is absolutely fabulous in teaching at the moment. You may have seen in the media that there's actually a chronic shortage of teachers right across the globe, not just in Tasmania or Australia, but right across the globe. So it is a fantastic opportunity to be thinking about becoming a teacher and becoming a career teacher. So looking at the ways in which you can graduate on a really great starting salary and also move into leadership roles, whether you have a passion for your discipline area, whether you really love maths, you really love PE, you really love the arts or English. There are many different trajectories once you do graduate as a teacher to become a leader in your interest areas, and also to become an educational leader right through to principalship and other kind of leadership and support roles for children and young people across schools. So we actually, now I'm speaking to this one as well, yes. Yes, we do use a variety of learning methods so that when you come into our degrees, what you'll do is have a full-time load if you're coming in as a full-time enrollee, which is about 4 units per semester. And we really encourage people to think about in what ways their classes really kind of suit where they're at in their lifespan. So I actually teach in the Master of Teaching and coordinate the Master of Teaching. That's a postgraduate course. We'll talk about those in a little bit further down the line. But a lot of our students are mature age students who are coming in after an initial undergraduate degree, for example. So our classes are really flexible. We can offer them in person or online. And there generally be discussion and activities related to a week's topic. So you'll usually have a recorded lecture, for example, and then an option to join, mostly the option to join either online or a campus-based tutorial to support you. We have a learning platform called Milo, which you'll become very familiar with as soon as you start with us. It becomes your accompaniment and great friend through your time with us. And on there are all the resources for our teaching and how you connect with us in an online way. During all of our initial teacher education programs, so they're the programs we're talking about today, which are programs that enable you to become a registered teacher, we do have placement processes. That means you go into schools and you learn, you make connections between the learning that you do with us in the university environment, and you make connections across to your experience in a school. So you do a lot of reflective practice on your beginning teaching in those school placements. And you're under the supervision of both a qualified teacher in the school as well as the team here at uni who support you in that. And that can be a really vibrant and exciting part of the degree, because you get to experience different schools and different kind of learning spaces. Every unit's assessed, but often the methods can be varied. So often you'll have an assignment, a written assignment. There might be quizzes. Often in our degrees, we do have, for example, oral presentations that enable you to build some of the professional skills of what it means to be a teacher and be able to communicate with students in a classroom setting. Of course, a lot of observation work in the classroom. So a lot of, again, reflection on watching other teachers work, and also reflection on your own teaching and your own experience in trying out different teaching methods in those environments as well.
So Marianne's talked about our initial teacher education programs, which the majority of our courses are, but we do actually have a course that is not a teacher education program. It is for people who want to look toward a career in education support. So here we're talking about working still within a school context largely, working to support teachers in roles such as teacher aid, resource aid, integration aid. There is also, for those of you who are in Tasmania, our public schools have a role called Education Support Specialist, which this degree also qualifies you for. And sometimes we have a number of people actually in the course who are just really interested in developing their skills and understanding about how to educate at home. So people who are homeschooling children and that sort of thing, and want to pick up some extra skills and methods that they can, strategies that they can use in that work. In our early childhood educator role, in which we have an embedded graduate certificate in early childhood within our Bachelor of Education degree, in that role, and I'll talk more about what that looks like in a moment, but in the actual role of early childhood educator, that actually covers education from birth to 5 years of age. So in that case, it would be looking toward a career in the childcare sector, where, to be honest, we are really desperate for people to go into that field as well. The sector is really craving educators with the skills and knowledge to support our very young children in their development. So that's the sort of work that you would do with that early childhood degree, but it also covers kindergarten teaching, which is quite a specialised area of study that sits slightly outside of what our primary teachers would do. And then we have our primary or secondary courses. Vaughan, would you like to talk more about those? Because you've also got your health and PE people in there as well in the primary area.
Yeah, I certainly can. I thought it might just be good to skip ahead to the next slide or two, Bronwyn, just in case Robin wanted to say anything more about her two courses, and then I'll jump in on the one after that.
Sounds good. Okay, thanks, Vaughan. Thanks, Bronwyn. So in education support, as I said, there's a range of professions or career paths that you can take, and some of them are listed there on the screen for you. And one extra one is that education support specialist role, which has become a real focus with our local Department of Education. It's a 2-year course, so for the associate degree, so that's 16 units of work over 2 years. And we also do have an exit option where you can exit with a diploma in education support. There is also an undergraduate certificate in education support, which is fewer units again. So there are a few different options, and they all nest in nicely together. So you can start one pathway as a taster, if you like, with less of a commitment that then you can add on and keep building that qualification right up to the full 2-year associate degree. You can study full-time, 4 units a semester, or you can go part-time, which is anything from 1 to 3 or 2 units a semester. But you can, it's flexible to work with what suits you, your lifestyle and your other commitments, of course. Now, the associate degree in education support is a fully online course, and I think it's really important to point that out. There are some units within the course, particularly in the second year of the course, that you can take on campus or online, so you have that flexibility as well. But your core units are all fully online, which is really wonderful because it means that you do have that flexibility to study during the hours that fit in with the other things in your life. So that just makes it a little bit more appealing, I think. Entry requirements there. So you need to have your Tasmania Certificate of Education or equivalent for your state if you're studying with us from another state. If you don't have that, we have preparation pathway programs that you can enrol in, and we can talk to you more about that if you're interested. Alternatively, if you've completed another undergraduate unit in a different course, for example, or a Cert 3 at TAFE, you can also use that as a pathway, or you can complete the competency statement as it says there. And these are fairly similar entry requirements for most of our courses, other than one or two slight variations. Probably something worth mentioning here too, if you do happen to have a Certificate 3 or higher in education support, and you've also done some work, had some work experience in a TA role, for example, or another role that is relevant to education support, you may have an option for credit against some of our two of our foundational units. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you're thinking about what this might mean for you in terms of enrolment and pathways. Thanks, Foreman. And then our Bachelor of Education Primary and Graduate Certificate. So as I said to you before, we have the Bachelor of Education Primary, and within that embedded the Graduate Certificate in Early Childhood. So whether you want to be a primary school teacher from prep through to grade 6, or whether you want to be an early years educator from birth through to kindergarten, you enrol in the same course. You do the first 2 years of your degree is the same because you're doing that broader, more general educational study around child development and what teaching and learning is and means and how it's all done. And then in your 3rd year of study, you either branch off to the Graduate Certificate in Early Childhood, where you do very focused early years learning, or if you want to be a primary school teacher, you'll nominate a proficiency pathway in one of the key curriculum areas that you'll follow and specialise in that. So lots of really exciting opportunities in both degrees that you can take up. Just for sake of time, I don't think you need me to talk through all the details on the screen, but you can see there it is a 4-year degree this time, or you can study part-time over 9 years. It's offered face-to-face and online across Launceston and Cradle Coast campuses, and fully online anywhere in the world, of course. There is a placement component that Marianne's going to talk to a little bit later on, and I will leave the rest there, I think, because you can read that on the screen. All right. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Obviously, Robin's talked about the Bachelor of Education Primary, if you want to be a sort of a primary classroom teacher, but we also have another course which is focused around health and physical education. So this one allows you to be a primary school PE teacher, or a high school PE teacher, or a college PE teacher, or even like a district high PE teacher, where you might be having classes from kinder up to grade 10 even. So this course has a lot of overlap with the primary in terms of some of those classes where you'll look at things like diversity and inclusion and Indigenous perspectives and things like that. And then it also has obviously a lot of units which are very health and physical education focused. So an important thing with this course is that most of those health and physical education units are only offered face-to-face in Launceston. So you'll need to be prepared to move to Launceston, or at least drive to Launceston on the days that you have class. We certainly have students from the Northwest Coast and from the South who just do day trips, or they might come up for a night or two if their classes are on consecutive days. So that's certainly something to factor in. And because a lot of our health and PE teachers who go into secondary schools also teach another subject, we actually offer you a proficiency, which means you actually do 3 units in maths or science or HASS, so humanities and social science. So that means if you did go into a high school in the future, you've actually done a bit of training in that second subject. So you're not sort of going to be sort of told to teach something that you've got no idea about. So I guess that's probably one of the key differences with health and PE. So yeah, just because of time, I think I'll pass over to Marianne to talk about the various MTeach offerings.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Vaughan. So 2 other pathways. So if you are a school leaver or beginning an undergraduate program, The Bachelor of Arts and Master of Teaching and Bachelor of Science and Master of Teaching are what we call double degrees. These are really great opportunities to graduate within 4 years full time and actually come out with both an undergraduate and postgraduate degree that allows you to gain teacher registration to teach in schools. So as you'll see there, the Bachelor of Arts, Master of Teaching is a minimum of 4 years. What happens is you do your first year in Bachelor of Arts units, and in the second year, you start doing education units as well. So you're kind of studying your major and your minor in the Bachelor of Arts become a big part of your teaching if you're going into secondary teaching, or if you're going into primary teaching, this is also good for you because you end up graduating with what's called as Robin mentioned, a proficiency. So you come with some leadership skill in a particular discipline area or curriculum subject area as well. So we have 60 days of placement in that. And again, the details are there. You can graduate as a primary or secondary teacher. The same thing with Bachelor of Science. You begin your first year, if you're coming straight into that program, first year are all science units or units from your Bachelor of Science, and then gradually over time, you start doing more education units until that final year, you're mostly doing your education units and completing a really big chunk of your what we call professional experience. So that's your time in school in that final year. So it's a great graduated path towards becoming a really classroom ready teacher. Just the next slide. Thanks, Bronwyn. Now, if you are here and you already have an undergraduate degree, you can enter into the Master of Teaching itself. And this is either an 18-month fast track or 2-year full-time or up to 5-year part-time degree. Please feel free, by the way, to put any questions in the question and answer here because we are covering quite a lot of material, and of course we can't get into so much detail in this short time frame. So we're just trying to give you a little bit of a taster here, and we're super happy to answer any questions that you bring up. So please do click on the Q&A to offer a couple of questions, and we'll get to those. Again, the Master of Teaching, it's based in, now the course is taught from Hobart, so a lot of the units will be offered as in place or on campus units in Hobart, but it's also fully online. So you can be studying this degree from anywhere within Australia, and you will do your practicums in the place of your residence. So if you're beaming in from Darwin at the moment, you will be able to do your practicum placement. So that's those 60 days of placement in a school that's nearby to you. Thanks very much, Bronwyn. Now, placement is a massive part of the course because it's really integrated learning. You're learning to become a professional through this process, and you're learning those professional skills with us here based at the uni and with the supervising teachers that you'll have on your placement. So in Tasmania, you can give a preference, and you should expect to be able to have your placements within a 45-minute kind of radius of where you live. And if you are from interstate, we do support you to source your own placement. So you can kind of do some of that legwork for yourself, but we definitely support you in that process as well. Now, for placement at the moment, you can't do your placement part-time. So when we say placement, they are chunks of a few weeks, growing right up to 5 to 6 weeks in some programs. So we can't actually offer those placements part-time. So you do need to think about when and how you are able to do full-time teaching in those placements. Now, the exciting thing is, as I'm going to jump to number 4, because just a few weeks ago, the federal government announced that there will be payment for students who go on placement, so that if you are needing to stop work for a period of time to be able to do your placement, you will be compensated in a means-tested payment for that, which is very exciting. If you're already a teacher assistant or you're already working in a school, your final placement can be made in your place of employment under certain conditions. So again, all of these aspects of enabling you to have the best learning experience possible and in the most accessible way for where you live and how your other commitments in your life kind of connect in with your study. There are very flexible arrangements there that we can kind of support you with when you come into the program. Thanks, Bronwyn.
So I think this one is back to me now. Thank you so much, Marianne, Robin and Vaughan, and thank you everyone for popping your questions in the Q&A. Keep them coming. Anything that you would like to know, please pop them in. So this is another question that we get all of the time from prospective students. How much will the course actually cost? So the way that degrees are priced is by unit, and so the total cost of a course varies based on which units you choose as you go through. On our website, you can see the individual cost for each unit in our course and unit handbook. And the other thing you'll need to think about paying as well is the student services and amenities fee for each study period. All of our pre-service teaching degrees have Commonwealth supported places for domestic students. So what that means is that the government subsidises part of the fees, and you're also able to get what's called a help loan to cover fees, and you pay that back once you start earning over $54,000 a year. So the way that Commonwealth supported places are priced is the government sets a price for each one, which is why you will see that a Bachelor of Business or a Bachelor of Education will cost the same no matter which university you go to in Australia as a domestic student. So the great news for education is that it falls into the most affordable band of around about $4,500 per year. So FSL is equivalent full-time study load. It basically means for 1 year of full-time study. So doing some rough math, a 4-year teaching degree would cost between $18,000 and $20,000. And again, that's a fee that you can defer onto a help loan. The double degrees that Marianne talked about, the Bachelor of Arts and Master of Teaching and the Bachelor of Science and Master of Teaching, they'll vary because the arts and science units that you do fall into different bands and you'll have like a lot more choice. When you are earning over $54,000, which you would definitely be well over that as a teacher starting in Tasmania, the starting salary for a teacher is about $77,000 a year, and that attracts a 4% repayment rate, so it's around $60 a week. So it's not a huge amount coming out of your pay packet each week. On to the actual how to apply. Applying online is easy and free, and our broader team is here to help you at any point along the way. So you can apply online. You just, I will send you a link after all of this, but you go to utas.edu.au/apply and you go through our online application portal. As you go, you'll just need to fill in details about your previous work and study experience. You can apply for up to 5 courses at once. Robin mentioned earlier in the presentation that we also have what we call pathways or enabling courses. So if for some reason you don't meet the entry requirements for one of the courses we've talked about tonight, our team will get in touch with you and offer you another way that you can get into the degree. So the message I'd really like to share there is where there's a will, there's a way. If this is something that you really want to do, we can definitely help you get there. What will happen after you apply is that you'll receive an offer from us. So something else I'd like to stress is you don't need to worry too much about do I meet the entry requirement here or there? Our team will look at all of that and let you know which is the best path to follow. So you'll get an offer for the most appropriate course for you, and then you'll get some step-by-step instructions on how you can log back in, accept that offer, and then you can go ahead and enroll in your units. Something I'll mention now is that applications for semester 2 are open now. Semester 2 commences in this July. So orientation week I think starts on the 15th of July. If you haven't got an application in already, I'd encourage you to do that as soon as possible. Mostly connected to something on the next slide, which is our scholarships deadlines. So we offer hundreds of scholarships across all areas of study. You can apply for those for semester 1 commencement or semester 2. The deadline for scholarship applications for semester 2 is the 30th of June. So all the more reason to get all of your paperwork sorted now. There's also a huge range of external scholarships offered by lots of different businesses and organisations, really too many to list, but places like Rotary clubs, Zonta clubs, all of those sorts of things. You'd be surprised how much there is out there. Another thing to consider is that workplaces will sometimes contribute toward the cost of education as professional development. So this is connected to the work that you already do. Another thing is that if your study relates to your career, you can also claim it on your tax, and I can send through a link to the ATO website that lists all of the details about that. And I realized in another webinar how much I'm showing my age, that I still call it Centrelink, but it's Service Australia now. They offer youth allowance or AusStudy. It's just called different things depending on your age. If you study full-time and meet the income and asset tests. So we'll jump into the Q&A now. I will just bring it up on my screen, and we've had a couple questions answered. So we had someone ask about if you're studying from the Cradle Coast, whether or not you'll get any help with placements. So all Tasmanian students will have their placements organised for them by the university. It's just if you're studying completely online interstate that it would be different. We had someone ask if there are ever groups of students that meet at other campuses like the Cradle Coast campus. Tara has said that it probably is the case. I know that they do have like a strong community there, but if anyone else in the webinar knows for sure if there's kind of a group that hang together at Cradle Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Often, particularly if your classes are online, and I think the person who's asking this, you might be thinking about the Master of Teaching. That would be a fully online course if you were living in Cradle Coast. But Cradle Coast does offer spaces for you to study in, and you would be able to connect with other students who are, and often even in that first year, some of those first units, you begin to meet other students who are in your region. And we have a lot of cases of students who will meet up at the library at Cradle Coast, for example, or some of the other places around the state to buddy up to study together. And often our lecturers will just let you know, because we travel around the state. We often visit some of the campuses, and we would, again, just let you know, and some of those opportunities, although informal, will continue to kind of grow over the time of your degree.
And something else I'd just like to add to that that's come up in other webinars, that if you do choose an online study option and you're in Tasmania, you're still a student of the University of Tasmania, and you're still completely entitled to use all of our facilities here. So I personally work from the Inverest campus, and we see students all the time in the beautiful new library that's been built there. And I know that a lot of students find that a little bit easier, especially if they've got kids at home that won't leave them alone, to have somewhere to go where you can use good, reliable internet, have nice, comfortable facilities that are open late at night and are safe. So yes, something to definitely bear in mind, as well as the study hub that we are partnered with out in Zeehan as well, for anyone who is way out west. I'll just take a look. Someone else has asked, they said that they've got a bachelor's in business administration from another Australian university, and would that be okay to enter the Master of Teaching? The answer to that one is yes, absolutely.
Yes, it would depend, Bronwyn, also just as a clarification on that one, it would depend on whether you're looking to be teaching primary or secondary. So in primary, absolutely. It would depend on what your second teaching area what you might want to do as your second teaching area from a degree like business administration. So we just need to check that you would have a major and a minor in your degree to enable you to teach 2 subject areas. And it looks as though we might have lost Bronwyn for a minute. I think that I'd also wanted to add that there are some questions there about studying from Cradle Coast. The Master of Teaching degree, for example, also has what we call an immersion day, where online students are invited to come and work with us in place in Hobart for a day. So we do have, again, these flexible opportunities for you to meet face to face with some of your lecturers and some of the other students. And we do that once a semester for our MTeach students. And we even have people traveling from interstate flying over for that day because they really see it as good value, good opportunity to be connecting one-on-one with lecturers and also building community with their peer students as well. There are I think we've covered more or less the questions there. Is there anything else you might like to add, Vaughan or Robin or Tara?
Marianne, I was just thinking when you're talking about students meeting at Cradle Coast, I think there's also some really nice opportunities that we can support you to set up if you want, where you might be studying the Master of Teaching Primary, for example, you might be studying the Bachelor of Education, to come together and share learning, to share ideas. That, you know, you don't necessarily need to be bound by your degree. We're all in education. We're all here for the same sorts of reasons and with the same intention. So, you know, we can certainly support you through those facilities on Cradle Coast and all of our campuses to come together and share in your learning and your practice as you go through your courses. I think it's a really nice idea.
Great, thanks, Robin. Anything else, Vaughan, that you'd like to share with the group?
No, I think it's pretty well covered. Obviously, in health and PE, you do get to sort of be part of a cohort that does sort of do the same, particularly those face-to-face units each year. So you will sort of develop a bit of a group that will then be your network, I guess, once you're out in school. So it's probably maybe 2 of your 4 units each semester might be sort of those face-to-face ones, and the others you can do online if you choose. But yeah, you certainly do get to develop a bit of a group that you can then, you know, rely on for sharing of lesson plans and ideas even after you've graduated. So it is really nice to see those relationships forming.
Great, thanks. On back to you, Bronwyn.
Yes, I'm so sorry. This was just talking to someone about how it's only when you're doing a live webinar that all of your tech fails. So I'm very sorry that you lost the screen and everything there. So we are a bit over time now, so I just want to thank Marianne, Vaughan and Robin and Tara as well for coming along tonight and answering your questions. Everything you've asked is all being recorded behind the scenes, so if there's anything that we didn't get to, we can certainly follow up afterwards, and I will send out a recording of tonight along with a recap of any of those major questions people have asked. But yeah, thank you so much for coming along tonight. I hope that this has helped firm up your decision, and I hope that we will see you as students at the University of Tasmania in the future. So thank you everyone, and good night.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.